Yeah, I just want to be the greatest.
Hi, I'm Bill Pendleton. I manage the electronic repair department at Stillwater Designs. So basically what we do here, we repair warranty amplifiers. So in this room over here is where all the warranty processing goes on. Everything comes into this room, including amplifiers, which of course that's what we're concerned with. It gets tagged and entered into our Oracle database. Comes through a couple different ways. There's a window over here, which I'll show you here in a second.
Okay.
Or it can come in on a cart or on a pallet. A lot of our amps come through the window here, kind of beat up, but it works. It gets put on in the window, and one of our guys, Franco primarily, he'll arrange things so that the priority amps are put up front.
Do you do any preliminary testing back there before it comes here?
No, they don't do any of that.
Any of it?
None of that. As far as amp concerned, they deal with speakers and other products.
Okay.
So Pete, you want to tell him what you're doing?
Oh, I'm just checking this amp, powering it up, to see if it powers up, if it's in protection. This one is not powering up at all, so it obviously has some issues.
So there's
If it powers up, you're going to see a green light here right next to the power. If it's in protection, obviously you'll see a red light there. And if it's in protection, we take the amp, we can flip it over, take our various tools we have to check things. You can check voltages in here. This one here, see, we've obviously got power going to the amp, to the turn-on circuit, but we don't have, it looks like it's shorted out. But that's basically what I do here. I can check signal on my O-scope. If it's working and it passes signal, of course we plug in RCA jacks in here. And we can check signal with this. Of course, this is not going to have any signal because it's not powering up. We use our O-scope. I have a signal generator. We usually run everything on 100 hertz. We run 100 hertz through everything when we test. This is our Astron. That's what powers up the amplifier. That gives us our 14 volts power.
Right.
But that's basically what I do here. If something's wrong, we disassemble it. Got our soldering tool. Take parts in and out. We either fix it or we salvage them. Yeah. Some amps cannot be fixed. Some of them are burnt beyond repair. Some of them have just issues things we cannot repair. But most of the time, if we can repair them, we get them done here. We check them, make sure they have signal. I reassemble. Sometimes they put them up here on the line behind you, and they'll reassemble the amp, and then it goes up to date. But what I do here basically is take the amp. If it's a no problem found, we put it on a shelf up here. Another person will check a no problem found twice. Then it goes on the line to be tested.
And I suspect you guys probably get a lot of those no problem found amps.
We do get a lot of no problem found amps, mainly from large distributors.
Right.
A lot of the customer amps do have legitimate problems.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Customer service and stuff, they talk to the customers before they send the amps in, and we have people that help them troubleshoot a little bit to try to make sure that they don't send no problem founds in. Sometimes they do still sneak in, but most customer amps are pretty well troubleshot before they get here.
Right, because they probably talk to somebody.
Sure. They talk to people in customer service to get an RA return authorization, and a lot of times they'll shoot them over to the guys in tech support.
Yeah, and also when they're talking to customer service, they'll describe the problem, and it's fairly broad stroke in most cases, but they'll let us know there's no output, for instance, so we know what we're looking for.
Right.
You know, there's a protection problem, in and out, it cuts out. Those are the kind of things, you know, it's nice to know what specifically is going on with an amp so that we can better troubleshoot. As he mentioned, most of the MPFs are usually the big box stores, that sort of thing, dealers, but we do occasionally get one. In fact, I've got one sitting right here. So he's already looked at it, and I'm gonna go ahead and check it out.
All right.
So we turn it on, and you see it starts out in protection, and then it eventually it powers up.
Yeah.
There's a little delay. All of our amps have what they call a soft start, so that
You don't get turn on pop.
Right, exactly. So what I'll do, I'll look at some test points with the meter, and So I've got my negative 38 volt rail and positive 38 volt, 39 volt rail. I sometimes, well, if I can find it, there's also some housekeeping test points, which are kind of hard to find from the top, but there's one. So it's getting its negative 17 volts. We have to assume it's getting the positive one because otherwise, one, it's either not going to power up, or two, it's not going to have any output. I'll look at with my scope. I want to see that the output is oscillating. Excuse my mess. Class D amplifiers, this is what you should see on the output. Actually, this is before the filter. How these things work is they generate that oscillation.
Right.
That audio will modulate it, okay? So gives you a pretty good idea that this amp is working. The next step would be to look at the output. That is with the volume control turned pretty much all the way up right there. So it's getting output. It depends on the amp, but I typically run them about 100 hertz. Sometimes I'll drop it down to 80. If it's a full range amp, I might go a little higher than that. And then I just go through all the controls. So there's a frequency control there, the bass boost. Let's see if I can get it to show you something here. You can see a little change there.
Right.
And then I check the high level input, and that's what you want to see. You push in the button and it drops because it's not getting as much input. We have loads on our benches, and I'm just gonna hook it up to a 4-ohm load.
I really dislike those kind of terminal strips.
Yeah.
They're really common. But
What do you prefer?
I prefer just a Allen set screw type.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Even though it's probably not always better for the wire itself, but it's just easier.
I'm not an installer, so I don't always know what people prefer and what they don't prefer, but that's interesting. Notice the amp meters are showing, so you really can't tell how much power, but
Right.
when you're looking at similar amps, you expect to see similar current draw. So, and this one's a relatively small amp, so it's really, you got 2 amps and you add those two together, and that's roughly the amount of amperage you can get. You can, calculate it if you want, but it's not really a dyno or an audio precision. It's not going to give you a really accurate, because you're also looking at THD. So basically, once I've done all that, as far as I'm concerned, it's a good amp. There's one other thing we could do. I would check the remote gain control. I just don't happen to have one handy.
Okay.
But we can see it up here.
This one will go back into service as like what, a warranty replacement maybe, or is this?
This is a customer amp. Okay. This is why I wanted to show you. It still has testing up there to go through, and then we'll also sound test it. Hey Dave. Okay, go ahead and test that one. This is Dave Womack.
I'm the one that makes the text mad when I say you didn't fix it right.
There you go.
Yeah, even though everything I saw appeared to look good,
Right.
that doesn't mean it's not going to fail up here.
Up here. What's the flow?
Yeah, so it comes in, fit off at the front of the line.
Right.
He picked the last amp there. He checked it out. Pretty much did everything I did. And then he said, okay, no problem. He puts it on a shelf for another tech, not necessarily me. Somebody will pick that amp up and run the same testing at their bench.
That's to ensure that one person doesn't say it's good when it ends up being bad.
Right. You want 2 sets of eyes on it.
Right.
Because, there's always a chance that the first tech may have missed something.
Absolutely.
Got it hooked up, and he's pulling up the test for it, and this is all pretty much automated. He puts in a number that identifies the amp. So we're tracking this.
Okay.
You'll notice on the right, you'll see that spreadsheet there. Every tech in here has that spreadsheet. And once they've tested an amp and fixed an amp, they enter that spreadsheet. And it's, when he checks, if this passes, he'll type in pass. The techs who work on the amp initially will see a yellow highlight across it. And that lets them know that they need to enter into an Oracle database so amps don't fall through the cracks and they get out in a timely manner. He checks for max power, rated power. Of course, you know, max power, it has to fall within, well, in the case of the sub-channel amps, it has to be 1% THD.
Part of the MPF process is take it out here to get the sound tested. We have it run for hours sometimes to see if there's any type of issues due to long-term running. Mostly this is just sound quality testing. And I'll test each channel, both left, right, and I'll just cycle through all of those and make sure the bass keeps working. I'll go to the second channel, do the same thing. This particular one has a remote bass control, so I will go ahead and set that up and test it. Fairly simple, and that's pretty much the general principle of process. We'll go into more details on specific issues, like I said, for protection and so forth, and try to dig as deep as I can for any customer complaints and whatnot's going on, depending on if we get anything from the customer or not on that.
So yeah, the whole point is to try to replicate the problem. Right. I would rather see the problem than not see it. It makes it easier working with the customer.
I just want to give a huge shout out to Kicker for treating me like family as always, giving me the tour, let me see what I want to see. If you guys like content like this, remember to subscribe, hit the little bell, plenty more where this came from. And if you want to see other specific spots of Kicker, kind of a deep dive, let me know in the comments below what you would like to see. And with all that being said, I hope to catch every single one of you in the next video. Thank you to all my Patreon supporters, but I want to give a special shout out to the 6-star and more members. 2001 Monolithic, G Nava, Joaquin Juarez, El Fuego Audio, Travis McClendon, Brandon Hanna, William Berg, Boxboy Audio Sound Solutions, Jesus Tires, Dennis Cromwell Jr., Scott Dilbeck, D. Stewart, Aaron Waltz, David Kozlik, Scott McCord, Matthew Toberg, Debo Bass, Corey D., Trucker 9000, Bobby Burkett, Kevin Lautner, The Cardio Guy, James Childers, and Baba. For as little as $2 a month, you can join the team and get exclusive behind-the-scenes Patreon-only content, and you get access to the Patreon-only monthly podcast. So if any of this interests you, please check me out at patreon.com/HifiVega.